Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. Back today to do part 2 of my anticipated releases for September. There were just so many new releases coming out that I had to split it into 2 parts. And here we are back today with the rest of them. We stopped at the 11th of September and we're actually returning to the 11th of September because the next book that is on my list is Nemesis, Medieval England's Greatest Enemy by Catherine Hanley. If the name Catherine Hanley is ringing alarm bells in your head, it's probably because you've heard me talk about her Matilda Empress Queen Warrior a lot. It is one of my favourite biographies of all time. I've also read Two Houses, Two Kingdoms, and most recently her biography of Joanna Plantagenet, which was called Lioness Heart. I read that in June this year and really enjoyed it. With this book, she is returning to France and looking at the life of Philip Augustus, who was the first king to name himself King of France, and as the title suggests, gave the English kings quite a bit of hell. I know nothing about this figure, but because Catherine Hanley is writing this book, I am certainly very willing, ready and able to give this a shot. The extraordinary tale of Philip Augustus, one of medieval Europe's greatest monarchs, and the part he played in the downfall of 4 Plantagenet kings of England. Philip II ruled France with an iron fist for over 40 years, expanding its borders and increasing its power. For his entire reign, his counterpart on the English throne was a member of the Plantagenet dynasty, and Philip took on them all: Henry II, Richard the Lionheart, John and Henry III. And yet we know so little about medieval England's greatest enemy. Historian Catherine Hanley, author of the critically acclaimed 1217, redresses this imbalance, bringing Philip out of the shadows in this fascinating new history. Delving into the French medieval archives, Nemesis explores Philip's motives for attacking England, and in doing so we learn not only about him, but discover so much more about England's most colourful and controversial of rulers, the Plantagenets. When Philip first succeeded to the throne in 1180, Henry II of England, thanks to his Angevin and Norman ancestry, as well as his wife's inheritance of Hekate, ruled more of France than Philip himself. By the end of Philip's reign in 1223, the pendulum of power had swung the other way. Nemesis reveals how Philip exploited the constant familiar squabbles of the Plantagenets to secure his grip on France. His wily political manoeuvring combined with a mastery of the medieval battlefield, turning France into a powerhouse of Europe. Jumping forward to the 16th of September, we have Hekate by Nikita Gill. Nikita Gill is known as a poet, and I have previously read her Great Goddesses poetry collection. And with this, she is returning to mythology and looking at Hekate. Born into a world on fire, godling Hekate has never known safety. After her parents find themselves on the losing side of the war between the ruling Titans and the new Olympian gods, Hekate is taken by her mother Asteria to the underworld, where Styx and Hades agree to raise her. Meanwhile, Asteria is pursued across the world by Zeus and Poseidon, and to escape their clutches, transforms herself into an island in a stormy sea. Orphaned and alone, Hekate grows up among the horrors and beauties of the underworld, desperate to find her divine purpose and a sense of belonging in the land of the dead. When she finally uncovers her powers and ascends to goddess status, she realises that even the most powerful Olympians are terrified of her. But when a mortal war breaks out again, threatening to destroy everything from Mount Olympus to the underworld itself, the goddess of witchcraft and necromancy is the only one who can bring the deadly conflict to an end. Coming out on the 18th of September, we have an old favourite author of mine, and that is Alison Weir, not with a fiction offering, but non-fiction. The 4th book in her England's Medieval Queen series is finally coming out, and it is Queens at War. I have read the first 2 books in this series, Queens of the Conquests and Queens of the Crusades. I actually haven't read the 3rd book in this series, which was Queens in the Age of Chivalry, but I really want to get to it. So obviously I will not be able to get to this final book until I've read the 3rd one, but I just wanted to give it a shout out in this video. The 15th century was a turbulent age. The 100 Years' War between England and France and the Wars of the Roses dominated the lives of people both inside and out of the royal courts. Joan of Navarre, Catherine of Valois, Margaret of Anjou, Elizabeth Woodville and Anne Neville were the queens who stood by England's sovereigns, caught up in wars that changed the course of their lives and the course of history. They were also formidable women who defied the limitations of their times, often living out the brutal consequences of their determination. Alison Weir uncovers their stories in this final volume of her groundbreaking series on the queens of medieval England, and knowing which queens that it is focusing on kind of gives me quite a bit of incentive to get through book 3, purely because I really want to get to this one. For a different kind of book coming out on the 25th of September, we have My Perfectly Imperfect Body by Debbie Tung. Debbie Tung is a cartoonist, and she has a few of these little graphic novels, of which I've read 3 of them: Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, Book Love, and Everything is Okay. I found them really, really sweet and engaging, and especially when it came to Book Love and Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, incredibly relatable. And this one is on a different topic, more about your self-perception, particularly about your body, self-image, and I think this one is going to be just as relatable. Debbie Tung has a simple and gentle message. Your body is worth being treated with kindness and love at any size. Illustrated in her unique personal style, Tung shares the experiences of her teenage years and how growing into a mature body combined with teenage angst, vulnerability, and the pressure on girls to be thin and pretty spiraled her into disordered eating. She became obsessed with exercising and dieting, but no matter how much weight she lost, it was never enough. She spent the next few years trying to heal her eating habits, learning about self-love, and finally making peace with her body. My Perfectly Imperfect Body is her story, and one she shares with many survivors of the thin-obsessed early 2000s. She hopes her gentle comics will provide a safe space to rest on whichever healing journey you find yourself on as you read. Definitely a book that I think is going to be really poignant and meaningful, and I hope that many people do read this and find some solace in it. Also coming out on the 25th of September is a book that I feel like a lot of people will be anticipating, purely on the basis of this author's first book being so wildly popular on BookTube. It is Cursed Daughters by Oyinkan Braithwaite, author of the very, very popular My Sister the Serial Killer, which I did read when it first came out in 2018 and thought was absolutely hysterical. Incredibly dark, of course. It's about a sister who kills all of her boyfriends and her older sister who has to clean up after her, but still done with this very dark, humorous tone. And now we have a brand new fiction offering from her. No man will call your house his home, and if they try, they will not have peace. So goes the family curse, handed down from generation to generation, ruining families and breaking hearts as it goes. And now it's calm, rational Aeneid's turn, who, due to her uncanny resemblance to her dead aunt Monophy and her family's insistence that she must be a reincarnation, has long been used to some strange familial beliefs. Still, when she falls in love with the handsome boy she saved from drowning, she can no longer run from her family's history. Is she destined to live out the habitual story of love and heartbreak? Or can she escape the family curse and the mysterious fate that befell her aunt? Much intrigue. Definitely keen to hear what other people think of this. Also coming out on the 25th of September is Uncharmed by Lucy Jane Wood. Now, I snapped up Lucy Jane Wood's first book, Rewitched, when it first came out, and I loved it. It was kind of perfect for me at the time. It was about a 29-year-old, almost 30-year-old Belladonna Blackthorn, who is a witch, who is very close to losing her powers and having to embrace who she is and come into her full power. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was lovely, cozy, gave me all the autumnal vibes. And now we have Uncharmed, which when Lucy Jane Wood said was about a people pleaser, I thought, goodness me, Lucy Jane Wood, can you please stay out of my brain? Andromeda Wildwood is practically perfect in every which way. Her life is a haze of pink, magic, and impossibly high standards. The proud owner of the Celestial Bakehouse, a bustling London bakery, Annie devotes her powers to pleasing others, and while perfection exacts a magical toll, it's a price she is more than willing to pay. However, when Annie is tasked by her coven with mentoring a troubled teenage witch, her charmed existence is thrown into chaos. She couldn't be more different from fiery, stubborn Maeve, or from Hal, the gruff but handsome owner of their temporary lodgings, who is not best pleased to find the coven has offered up his woodland cottage to two headstrong witches. As the unlikely trio slowly bond, outside forces begin to take an interest in Maeve's extraordinary powers. Will Annie risk everything to protect the true magic she's finally found? Jumping from something that seems quite Halloweeny, quite autumnal, to something that is more Christmassy. Because you know I can't get very far on in September, October without thinking about Christmas. We have The 12 Days of Christmas by Susan Stokes Chapman, a short story collection coming out on the 25th of September. The only thing I've ever read from Susan Stokes Chapman is Pandora, which for me was a historical fiction that I found pretty good, not my favourite, but it's definitely made me intrigued about her work. And because this is about Christmas, you know I'm gonna go for it. The air glitters with hope as the snowy village of Merrywake celebrates the Christmas season after the tumult of the Napoleonic Wars. As the Viscount's famous Twelfth Night Ball draws closer, many of the villagers have a story to tell. We meet a lovelorn vicar and kindly maid reunited after a misunderstanding, 3 sisters vying for the hand of a dastardly duke, 2 servants hiding a dangerous secret, and a soldier making his way home, unsure of the welcome he might receive. As their tales braid together, we see life and love in the village from below stairs to high society. Reimagining each of the traditional carol's gifts and written in tribute to Jane Austen and Georgette Heyer, The 12 Days of Christmas is a collection of festive tales filled with seasonal cheer and heartwarming characters. Will the challenges and mysteries that the Viscount's guests encounter be resolved by the night of the ball? Question mark, question mark. I really enjoy the idea of a short story inspired by each of the gifts of Christmas, and that just seems really lovely and seasonal. Definitely one that I probably won't read in September, but I will probably put it on my November-December TBR. And then finally coming out on the 26th of September is the Aeneid. There is a new translation of the Aeneid coming out this month, translated by Scott McGill and Susanna Wright, and And I'm not going to lie to you, and maybe you'll get the same vibe. The reason that this was first put onto my radar was because the cover of this looks so strikingly similar to Emily Wilson's translation of Homer, her Odyssey and Iliad, that I have to think that that was deliberate on the part of the publisher. And as you will see from the cover, it even has Emily Wilson's name quite prominent because she does write the introduction to this translation, and I feel like that is slightly sneaky. Make the book look just like her translations, slap her name on it quite prominently. I do wonder how many people will pick this up thinking that it is her translation and not realising that it's not. But it clearly did work, because originally thinking it was an Emily Wilson translation, I did click on it and now it's in my brain. The founding epic of Rome, rendered in a fluid metrical translation that sings Virgil's stately verse in a vivid contemporary idiom. This new Aeneid, the first collaborative translation of the poem in English, is rendered in an unrhymed iambic pentameter that engages modern readers while preserving the epic dignity and pathos of the original. Scott McGill in Susanna Wright's version faithfully conveys the poem's delicate balance between its triumphant celebration of the Roman Empire and its sensitivity to the human costs of antiquity's most powerful and influential society. The result is a poem in English every bit as complex, inviting and affecting as the Latin original, with a rich introduction from Emily Wilson and the full complement of maps and supporting material that have made Wilson's Homer translations the standard of our time. This gorgeous edition of Rome's founding epic will capture the imaginations and stir the souls of a new generation of readers. The last time I read the Aeneid was actually for my classics class at A level, so basically the first time that I read it. So definitely, if I'm going to go back to this classic, it will probably be through this translation. And I am very keen to see what classics fans make of this. So there we go, that is the second half of September and the anticipated releases that I have totted up. Do let me know if you are keen to pick up any of the books that I've spoken about today. Alternatively, if I did miss anything out that you think I shouldn't have that is coming out in September, please do let me know. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.